Amazing afternoon. It is bitbudha back again with another episode of the Blacks in Cybersecurity Podcast. And today we have Tyrrell Brewster, who is the Red Team Development Program Lead at BIC. So we'll let him introduce himself as well.
Hey everyone, my name is Tyrrell Brewster. I've been in the cyberspace for a few years now, and I have been having a lot of fun with that. I ended up becoming a Red Team operator a few years ago, and I got the Red Team Development Program Lead position with BIC earlier this year, around April. So I've been here for a few months now, and I'm happy to be talking with BIC here today.
Beautiful. And so the first thing is, right, for those who don't know, what is Red Team or what is Red Team? Like, what is even that space?
Okay. So I usually have two ways of talking about this. I have like the funnier short way, and then I have like the more, more professional, hey, this is what I do. I'm going to start with the funny way. I bully computers for a living, right? That's basically what it is. I go in and I try to find misconfigurations. I look for, unpatched services. Maybe there is some weakness in this network in the system, and I look to exploit that, right? So, for example, maybe, someone has like a list of passwords on one of their file shares or something like that. I'm looking for things like that. It's basically a covert way of pen testing. So if you aren't aware of pen testing, that's basically looking for any and all vulnerabilities on a network, on a system, on a host, depending on what the scope is of that project assessment or so on and so forth, right? And then red teaming is basically taking it up a step, because a lot of times when you're doing pen testing, it's very, everyone's aware that you're doing it, right? So there are going to be people a little bit more, more secure, more on guard. When it comes to red teaming, a lot of times it's usually only one or two people of that organization, program, team that knows. So it's a lot more normal. The security is a lot more normal, a lot more authentic to what a day-to-day would be. So when you're doing the red team assessments, you're staying covert, you're staying, going low and slow, and basically trying to do that same exact thing, which is finding these vulnerabilities, finding where, a program or organization needs help, needs work, and basically using that to further your, your access into a network, and then achieving the goal that was set for that assessment. That changes depending on who you work with. But yeah, so that's kind of a gist of, both pen testing and red teaming. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Well, and I love that because that was going to be my second question, right? Because when people first enter cyber, it's like, I want to be a hacker. Like everyone wants to be a hacker, right? But so if you could just give it a bit more, a two-pronged question, a bit more of the day in the life difference between a penetration tester and a red teamer, and what is the first step? Before you're even a red teamer, before you're a pen tester, what is the first step to just even going down that path?
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start off with, I kind of just blanked. I'm sorry. Give me a second. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to start with basically what is the difference between red teaming and penetration testing. Mm-hmm. And it kind of just goes down to the fact that with pen testing, right, it's okay to get caught. It's okay if someone sees hey, you're doing this type of activity. Maybe you're doing a password spray, and you're, reaching out, or you're on the network sending, all this traffic, right? When it comes to red teaming, you want to be able to achieve your goals. You want to be able to get, PrivS, get this extra access, persist on the network, but you don't want, the SOC to know, because the goal is for the SOC to detect you, kind of like you are a threat actor itself, right? And the threat actor isn't going to do all these really loud attacks, right? They're going to, try to get onto the network, try to go low and slow, figure out what they want, or figure out where they are, and then figure out how to get to where they want. Depending on the threat actor, it could be like, hey, maybe they just want access, right? Because some threat actors sell their access to other threat actors. Maybe it's maybe they want to deface like a website, so maybe they just try to get to the point where they can access that website as like an admin, and then they try to take it offline. Maybe they want to reach like PII, PHI for whatever reason. Maybe they want to do a ransomware attack, right? So the goal is to be as threat actor-like as we can, so we can basically simulate what that would be like. So can the SOC catch us, right? Not just can the SOC see all these different things. It's more so, hey, like, we're going to basically act like a threat actor. Can you guys find us? Versus just loud and proud, more or less. And then the second question, okay, so if you're interested in pen testing and, I'm going to take it as you're in tech, so maybe you're in IT, but you're not in cyber, right? My first recommendation is trying to get into cybersecurity. That's more or less what I did. That's what a lot of people do, and it really helps, especially when you come in from a background like IT, like system admin work, because you have a lot more. You would have a lot more like a lot more experience working with these systems before just trying to go in and hack it, right? Some of the best people I've worked with that are like on the red teams, that are penetration testers, are former sysadmins, because they understand what it's like to be on the network, trying to build and set up the network and manage and maintain it. So they know where there might be some shortcuts, right? Where they're like, for example, every few months I have to change my password, and I really don't feel like having to think about it, so I'm going to do like a keyboard walk, right? And that's where they just like hand jam from like 1 to Z and then 2 to X, right? And for a lot of people, they're like, okay, well, not many non-technical, non-red team people are going to think about this password. But for red teamers, we go, okay, well, that might be like it's super simple, long enough to pass most of the complex enough to pass most of the password complexity rules and policies. So a lot of system admins do that, and we have like password lists that contains multiple different types of keyboard walks, for example, that we would use if we were to see like a more lax security environment. Whenever I'm testing and I see, hey, okay, maybe this looks like pretty relaxed in terms of security, I'm going to try a keyboard walk to see if that cracks anything. And it has happened and has worked in the past. So, but kind of going back to what I was saying, basically the first thing you want is to get into IT. And then try to get into cyber, right? Because with cyber, you can look, especially if you work in the SOC, you can have, you can see so much, right? You can start to see like how attacks happen. Like, for example, you might get a ticket one time, and it's something saying, hey, they're running a weird command. It looks like they're doing like ls space / /etc. What is the password? Or shadow, and you might go, okay, well, what's going on here? This is like coming from a web app. What's going on? And it could be the fact that there's like a web shell, right? So someone was able to upload or get a web shell going, or maybe it's an LFI. It really all depends on the attack, but you get to start seeing these things and start to become accustomed to it. So then when you do want to become a pen tester, it's like, okay, well, I kind of have an idea of what this is. And now you have like a wide scope of like all these different technologies, which is what is like very highly sought after in pen testing and red teaming. Because yes, this is a specialized part of cybersecurity, but you need to be able to understand multiple different technologies, right? So kind of going from like a SOC analyst and then trying to get into pen testing or red teaming. Works really well. In my case, I actually became a threat hunter first, so I was a SOC analyst, and then I became a threat hunter, and then I ended up going into red teaming. And because of that, I had a good understanding of like EDR and AV detection and how you can like bypass that. But yeah, so is that good? Should I go a little bit further?
Of course. Yeah, you like explained it like in depth, but no, I definitely appreciate that. So before you even were like a threat hunter or like even in tech in general, like what were you doing be like for? Like what is your past even before you came down this path?
Oh, this was my path. All right, that was just I have been a tech nerd since I was a kid. Right,
Wow.
I took apart like computers when I was like 6 and 7 years old.
Oh, okay. So this is like
so this for me, it was just like everyone's just like, yeah, it makes sense that I started doing this type of stuff.
Right.
So for me, like I said, I was like tearing apart and putting together computers when I was like 7. Wow. I ended up building my first like actual desktop computer when I was like 13. Wow. And then from there, a really funny thing happened when I was pretty young, and I ended up getting hacked when I was like 15. And it made me go like, okay, you know what? Maybe I should take cybersecurity more, I guess, more seriously, because I didn't really understand it. I was just like, I'll just go download something, because when I was younger, loved YouTube. I always wanted to like do something with content creation, and I downloaded. I'm not gonna lie, I was a kid, so I downloaded cracked versions of like Sony Vegas. And for anyone who's listening, don't do that. Don't do it. Don't trust it. There's always something in there. So when I downloaded it, it ended up coming up with a virus, and some guy, right, he was just like in my ears, like every time I turned on my computer, it was like, hey man, I'm here. And it was like a really interesting experience, yeah. And that kind of made me go, like, you know what? I kind of want to do that stuff, and I want to work. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's cool. No. So you tell me when you were on your computer, the guy's just like talking to you through your like speakers.
So it was a really weird experience, because he waited until I was on Skype with a few of my buddies at the time, and like I know everyone's voice, so I'm sitting here talking. And I'm talking to my buddies, and they're like, someone said something. I was just like, I've never heard this voice before in my life. Who is this? And I was like, yo, guys, does anyone else hear this? They were like, yeah, no. Nah, we don't. I was like, okay, well, I turned off my computer, and I was just there. All right, maybe that's off. And I turned it back on, and he's still there because he has persistence. All right. So, that was fun. That was a fun few weeks. I ended up like destroying those drives. I hit them with the hammer, of course. Trash them, make sure they never work again, and then threw them out.
I've heard of a lot of cyber stories, bro. That is crazy, bro. Yeah. The guys just like, hey, I'm here. Yeah. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, I was scared. I was like, yo, what's going on? Yeah.
Wow. Well, so like I know now with your like level of like experience, you probably know how he like did that and like how he like got in and all of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I do. And it was funny because I was just thinking like how, let's see, I was 15, so about 12 years ago, I was like, I had no idea how he could do that. And now I'm just like, man, I wonder what he's doing now, because like many people were talking about how like hard it is to do some of this stuff now, and he did it back then, like 10 years ago. So I'm interested in like how good he is now. But hey, I can do it. So
that's crazy. So would you say like it's easier now to do like those types of hacks, or it's harder to do those type of hacks now?
It's a bit of both, right? So in one case, right, especially with AI coming up, it's very easy to spin up your own like slightly modified version of like a malware that can bypass AV, EDR, so on and so forth, right? But at the same time, there's also a lot of like the AV and EDR companies have actually gotten really good to the point where even if you customize like a standard payload, if you don't know what you're doing, it's still going to get caught, and it might not get caught immediately. But if you run the wrong action, or if you try the wrong command, you still get caught, right? It will detect some of the behaviors that that I guess a hacker or threat actor would do. So it's a bit of both, right? Because now it's just like as time goes on, you have to add more complexity to hide. And because of that, it's if you don't know what you're doing, it's harder. But if you do, if you pair that your knowledge of AI, it's getting really easy.
I see. And for the acronyms for like AV and EDR, right? So think about it, like people like this don't know what these like acronyms are, right? So what is AV and like what is EDR, and what are the ones that you would like recommend or you think that are like the best in the industry right now?
Okay, thank you for noting that. I do kind of just say that without thinking about it.
No,
So
I
AV is antivirus, right? So that is Windows Defender. That's like Bitdefender. What's another one? Maybe Sophos, I believe they have one. There's a few. Malwarebytes is another one. And then EDR, which the E I think changes depending on who you're talking to. Some people I saw it say like extended detection and response. I look at it as endpoint detection and response, and that is basically a beefed up version of AV that, in my opinion, handles like behavioral analysis a bit better. So for a lot of AV, it's very static. It's just like, hey, real quick, does this look weird? This is known. Is this a known bad? Yeah, flag it. With EDR, a lot of EDRs nowadays, they have like sandboxes and things of that nature where they will analyze it dynamically. They will let it run in their sandbox and let it like see what it does. And so that's what I was kind of mentioning. Like, hey, you might be able to get it to run at one point, but if you run the wrong command, it's going to be like, oh, I know that. That's weird. I know that behavior, and it will flag you that way.
Right.
So yeah.
Got it. No, that like makes like a ton of sense. And also, so I wanted to know, how did you hear about BIC, and like what interested you in like joining BIC?
So I've heard about it a few years ago, and I just really wanted to join the community and kind of support and give to the community. I've used like the internet, I've used different sources, and I just wanted to have a place where I can give back, and I wanted it to be BIC.
Got it. No, that is beautiful, because I always feel like paying it forward is like the best thing, because I'm sure you had like a ton of people in your like journey who like poured into you. So the fact that you're able to pour into other people now is like such a beautiful thing. And so outside of like cyber and red teaming, like what do you do for like fun? Like if you had like a week free, no bills, no work, no family stuff, like what would you be doing in that week?
All right, so I do enjoy like hacking, so that is actually part of my fun. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I'm going to do all this other stuff. I actually did do that recently, where I just sat down and I tried to go through a course that I was interested in called RTOC. We can talk about that later. But outside of cyber completely, I like weight training. I've been weight training since I was like 14. I'm 27, so it's been 13 years. When I'm not working out, well, I'm still kind of working out because I also do Muay Thai.
Wow.
So that's, really fun, very tiring, always end up super sweaty by the end of the session. After that, I am hoping to get my pilot license soon.
Sweet.
That is kind of like my big goal at least before I'm 30, is to have that license. The goal is to hopefully have like the license in a plane somehow by 30. Don't know how that's going to work. But I got like 3 years, so hopefully I can figure it out in that time. And then I just want to travel, right? So I've been trying to travel like internationally, even just domestically in the US for the last few years. Each year I try to go somewhere. So for example, I went to London, I went to Curacao, I went to Panama. And I'm just trying to just go out and see more of the world. And that's kind of why like the whole plane thing was to say,
Yeah, of
oh, for
course.
domestic stuff,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
just fly myself.
yeah.
But yeah, so that's a little bit of my hobbies.
Well, that sounds really cool, especially with the Muay Thai. I hope I'm saying it right.
Yeah,
But what drew you towards that? Because I'm thinking about joining like
yeah,
boxing. Because especially being in tech, I feel like we're staring at these screens like so much that I need to have like a physical thing. But what drew you
yeah.
towards Muay Thai? Muay Thai?
Muay Thai.
Yeah.
So I did a little bit of kickboxing when I was younger,
Mm.
back in college, and I always heard about Muay Thai, and I was just interested in it. And I had just finished losing a good amount of weight, and I was like, man, I am stiff. And I was like, you know what? It can probably help me kind of just get back into my body and reconnect with my body really well, and get my limberness back. Hopefully, Muay Thai, and it
Wow.
has been. I've been like well, you have to stretch for some of these
Yeah.
things. Like,
Yeah.
I have been stretching like every day just to prepare for Muay Thai, because it's a lot. But yeah, so the main goal and the main reason why I joined Muay Thai was to kind of just get back into a more athletic build where I was starting to like just lock up and be really stiff because all I did was weight training.
Mm.
Um, so it was just to, get out and be more active. And it was a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's definitely beautiful. And with the plane license, that actually passed on mine as well. Because I'm thinking about like the Air Force and Space Force, and then it was like,
Yeah.
oh, why don't you just get the license? And like, it was so cool. Like, imagine like you pull up in like the plane, like you like land out of the plane, like that would be so cool.
Yeah.
So if you were to get a plane, have you seen the different types, or do you know what type of model you would get? Or are you still like looking into it?
So I've definitely been looking. I've been looking, and a lot of people are just like, man, this guy really likes planes because I've just been getting back into it.
Yeah.
Because I thought about this a few years ago, but I was just like, hey, there's other things that I need to do before I can go and say, hey, this is when I'm going to go fly a plane and do all this stuff. And I'm getting to the point where, all right, I'm almost ready. So I have looked, and at first I was going to go for like an old school plane, right? So depending on like what you want, like depending on what you want to do, that will kind of like I guess direct you to what plane you want. If you want something for like your family, say you're a family man, you got like a family girl, you got like 6 kids or something, I don't know. You might want a bigger plane, obviously.
Yeah.
For me, I was just like, probably max people that I'm going to fly with is maybe 3. So a 4-seater should be good. And I looked around and I was like, okay, maybe I'll get a Comanche, which is a Piper Comanche. It's an old, very old plane from like maybe the 1950s to 1960s, something around that time span. And I was just like, that looks nice, but it looks like it's a lot of maintenance. And then it's for the maintenance and the price, I saw something that looks a little bit cooler in my opinion, and then it's also just a lot more used, so everyone kind of knows it. It's called a Bonanza, a Beechcraft Bonanza. So that is, I think, the most produced general aviation plane just in existence. It's been going on since like the 1940s, late 1940s, and I was just like, I'm gonna do that one. All right, so it's going to be hopefully a Bonanza 35 series. I haven't decided which like version of that. I thought it looks really cool. It has a really bad nickname though. It's called the Doctor Killer because of the way that its like tail at the very back is. It's not like a standard plain tail. It kind of has like a V shaped, which is why it's called a V tail. And it is it's a fast plane. It's a little complex, but I think that like if I was to go and just buy a plane, I just want to buy one plane and not have to think about, do I want to upgrade or do anything like that. And I think for what I want and what I plan on doing, the Beechcraft Bonanza is like the best option for me.
Got it. Yeah. So like you definitely are giving me a lot more stuff to research, because actually even outside of the Air Force, there's this other company. They just sent me like a text. I think it's called like ATP, and they have like flight training or whatever, right? But like in general, from a little bit of understanding, it takes like a lot of like flight hours mainly of the training, and plus it takes like a lot of money, right? But to get
Yep.
the full license that you need, like how many hours or how much you think like that will be to get the license that you are?
So I right now I'm shooting for the PPL, which is the private pilot's license. That is like the first one you need. That one is 40 hours required, but I highly recommend going past that because your life is on the line when you do this stuff. Yeah. So I recommend doing like 50 to 60. That's what I plan on doing. Right now I'm just in ground school. I've been trying to decide where I wanted to go because I think ATP has a flight training school close by to me, but there's also a few that are a bit cheaper. And I've been trying to weigh if I wanted to do something like that or if I wanted to wait and go like down south because I'm from Georgia, and they have it where it's like maybe $5K cheaper to do it down there. But then it's just like, okay, do I have a remote job? No. So how's that going to work? So overall, I recommend about 50 to 60 hours, and then there's more training after that. I want to also get my instrument. Is it instrument flight rating? I believe that's what it's called. Where it's basically instead of just being able to just look out and fly the plane, I also want to be able to look at the instruments because say if there's like a cloudy day or if it's raining, snow, yada yada yada. If the weather is bad, I have like another way of flying the plane just for safety reasons. And that's like another. It's basically the PPL again, so it's like twice. It's double it. It's seems like a lot, but I think it's worth it if you're going to go ahead and go down this route to be safe and get the other one. So, yeah, planes.
Yeah, it's interesting, and to circle it back to like the hacking and red team and stuff, because I know there's a such thing as car hacking now, because pretty much all of the modern cars have like tech inside it, right? But with airplanes, is there such like industry as like airplane hacking? Is that a thing, or is that becoming a thing, or?
That is definitely a thing if the plane is technical enough. A lot of the planes I'm looking at are actually really old. I'm talking about like 1950s, 1960s, maybe 70s, because these things are expensive. And a lot of those older planes are all like analog, all manual, all mechanical. So you don't really have to worry about that on the older planes. The newer planes, I do believe, have some tech that can be hacked. Drone hacking is definitely a thing too, right? Especially because it's like what Wi-Fi, RF, it's all So that is definitely something that people have been looking into in the recent few years.
Yeah, it's so interesting, like how when all these new like technologies come out, the hackers are like immediately on it, on both sides, right? The hackers are like immediately on it. And speaking about planes, it's interesting how when you get like a plane or a car or whatever, right? It's like depending upon your lifestyle, you have to like kind of pick your specific one, right? And I feel like that's often the same thing with like Linux distros or like operating systems, right? And so on your end, right? I know that in like when people get into hacking, they recommend Kali Linux, Parrot OS, Black Arch, or Pentoo, right? Do you use any of those? Like which one do you recommend, or what value do those have in the industry? And
Okay, so I use for my daily driver when I'm not on my gaming computer. My gaming computer only has Windows because I play like a few ranked games like Apex, Call of Duty sometimes, and it needs Windows because the driver and the anti-cheat software is Windows-based. But on my laptop, I actually use what is it called? I use Pop! OS, which is I guess a derivative of Ubuntu, which is then a derivative of Debian. So when I am doing some of my tech, depending on what it is, right? So for some of the stuff, like if I'm using a server, I usually go for Debian. I actually really like how stable it is. I played around with Ubuntu. It just did not work with me well. So I try to stay away from Ubuntu for the most part. And that's why I'm using Pop! OS for my laptop. And then when I am doing any type of like offensive security, if I'm like actually on assessment or if I am like just playing around on my on my own free time, I generally use Kali. It's just, it has a lot of the tools that I would want on there. Right. I pull down the rest that I would want if it's not. Right. And, I'm pretty comfortable with the Debian apt space.
Yeah.
So I'm a Debian boy, so, count.
No, that is cool. Because, I'm like a Linux fiend. Like I breathe Linux. Yeah. So Linux is my love pretty much. So it's always beautiful to see what different distros people are using.
Yeah.
In terms of the hacking tools, which ones would you say you use consistently? Your top 4 tools. If you're on Kali, you're going to use this either way.
NetMap for enumeration. A lot of what I do is Active Directory based, so netexec. And then I generally use a lot of C2s, and I modify them myself. So for open source, I would say Adaptix or Silver C2 is kind of what I've been using. And then for closed source, I've been using Cobalt Strike.
And for one more time, could you explain what is a C2 for people?
Sure. So C2 means command and control. So kind of going back to my little story of how I got hacked, right? Yeah. I said something about persistence, right? And generally what happens is once you are able to get into a system, right, it's generally called post-exploitation. And in that case, that's when you would deploy a C2, I guess I'm going to say beacon, a C2 implant agent, depends on who you talk to, but basically this is the malware that a lot of people think of. And in this case, I if I remember correctly, they were able to set up persistence as a run key, which is in the registry of a Windows machine, where it basically every time you log in, it's going to run this executable. Which is the C2 beacon implant, yada yada, so on and so forth. So yeah, C2s basically are used to do everything that they can basically control your computer from a remote location. So basically anything that you can do, if the person knows what they're doing on the C2, they can do. Right. So for example, if you want to take a screenshot, take a screenshot. If you want to talk to someone, if you want something playing their speakers, you can make that happen. Right. Yeah, fun.
Yeah, it gets pretty it's pretty wild. It gets pretty wild out there. But I was looking at your GitHub. Tell us more about, I think it's called Chronix, this thing you dropped a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So early or really late last year, I kind of had an idea of building out this platform, which I'm still working on. I'm actually thinking about doing a small rebrand and changing a little bit about Chronix. But the goal was to have a place where operators that are on an engagement assessment, whatever you want to call it, they are able to go somewhere and it will have all of the team's notes and logging, right? Because I've had a few experiences where there were arguments and fights because of how we were trying to use different tools, and how in one case someone was paired with someone who was types really fast and has a really good idea of where they want to go, was paired with someone that was unfortunately not that tech savvy and was typing super slow. So instead of being able to copy and paste because of the way the environment was set up, they would have to hand jam everything, which is why everything was going super slow. And I was okay, well, instead of doing all that, how about we have an app that would have both the logging aspect that we need, along with the note-taking collaborative aspect. So then everyone can have their own little space, so they can copy notes down and copy and paste and do whatever they need for the engagement. So that's what Chronix is. And where I'm trying to take it is basically it will be a place where it will have all of your logging, all of your notes. It will have a place where you can put in your findings for after the assessment's over. You guys can already have an idea of what you're going to be writing to. And then you can link the notes that you have to each finding to make it a little bit easier to access when you're writing your report. So basically, Chronix was the proof of concept that I came up with earlier this year, late last year. And I'm hoping to have a better, more fleshed out product coming out probably around October or so of this year.
Wow. You know, that's actually quite genius, and I'm amazed that that's not a thing already. Because in my head, I thought it was already a thing, right? So you're
Right.
so all right. So in general, when these red team stuff come, right? So all right, in my head, it's like, say you're with your company, right? The guy at the top, like, hey, um, we need to do a red team assessment on this company, right? So is it like they send you out individually, or they send you out as like a pack of 4 or a pack of 12? Like, how many people are like doing a red team engagement on one company, and what is the time span that they have? Because I would think if this unit, the whole unit is using like the same exact tools, but the way that you're explaining it, it's like everybody is using different tools. So I could get how that could be very complex. But how does that process usually work?
So first thing is the team size. It really just depends on the org, right? Some places have like 10 people per or 10 people per assessment. Some people just have 4. So it really just depends, right? And then there's also the fact that some of these people might be remote. Some of these teams might be remote. Some of these teams might be in person, right? And then when it comes to the software aspect, sometimes the software works, sometimes it doesn't, right? One thing that a lot of teams use is like Obsidian.
I've heard of
For
it.
note taking, yep.
Yeah.
So some people use that. Some people use like OneNote. Depending on whatever the setup is, right? That changes like how things work. And in one case, like for example, we had Obsidian set up on the file share, and we couldn't connect for some reason. It just wouldn't let us connect, and we were just like, well, we need to go ahead. Like, yeah, we can kind of try to figure this out, but that's not why we're here. We're here to find these vulnerabilities and get this goal and see if we can achieve this goal. And we don't really need to have the file share going. We can just take our notes separately, compile it later, and then worry about it then. So that's why a lot of teams kind of have that, where it's just like, okay, well, we might have like different pieces of these things, but it's not all in one. So you might have logging, but you might not have the note taking aspect in one.
Right.
And that's kind of like where I was going with it. It's just like, hey, we're going to bring this all together. And then I was just like, now that I think about it a little bit more, let's add on, X, Y, Z, which is kind of why I said, okay, if that's the case, I'm going to kind of archive Chronics and then come up with something that's a lot more, more fleshed out later on.
Wow. Yeah, that's super smart. Like, because I'm genuinely shocked that that's not a thing. So the fact that you're making it, I know is going to be good, because this is a thing I feel like should be a thing. It should be a thing.
Yeah, I was looking around, and I was they don't really have anything. They have like I said, different pieces.
Right.
They're never together. Exactly. Yeah. So I was just like, all right, let me do it, because I see no one else has. So
got it. And so with it, so I assume that you're like programming it by yourself, right? And if so, like what programming languages do you know, or what programming languages would you recommend for someone who wants to go down the red teamer path?
Okay, so this feels like a loaded question, right? Because when it comes to red teaming, right, the thing is, like, there are so many different tools that other people have used, made, created, yada, yada, yada. Right. And to give you a little bit of background on me before I go down and keep going, basically, I was taught Python and C# in college. And so when it comes to Chronics, that's what I was using. I was using mostly Python, but there have been multiple cases where C# has came in handy, especially with if you ever hear of like the terminology BOFs and things of that nature. While this isn't exactly a BOF, this is something that is used in place of one. It's called execute assembly, and that basically means that I can run C# executables in memory. Okay. Right, so that's kind of what it does. So say if you have this idea like, okay, hey, I have this hacker executable that I want to run. If you don't have it in a BOF, what I usually recommend is basically, if depending on what it is, depending on like how the tradecraft goes, I recommend having it be proof of concept in C# and then moving it into a BOF, which is usually written in C, or it can be written in a few different languages, but it's usually written in C. So when it comes to programming languages, I recommend Python just because it helps with automation. Bash, it helps being able to read different scripts and whatnot. And then I usually say, okay, pick one of these other languages to really just hone in on. Because like you have people that use Go for Sliver C2, if you've heard of that. That is a very popular open source C2 that's used by that's made by Bishop Fox. I think I said that right. Bishop Fox, which is a offensive security consulting company. You have Cobalt Strike that's written in C, made by Raphael Mudge. Hopefully I said his name right. Very well known. Probably the most well-known C2. I think for what it is, it's basically the best C2 because a lot of people basically try to take the features of Cobalt Strike and implement it in different ways in their own. It has like one of the best malleable profiles, kind of like how you can change the network traffic, how you can spoof it to look like something else. It's basically top of the line. I don't think anyone has beaten it yet. There's other C2s like Mythic. Mythic is really interesting because before Mythic, from what I understand, a lot of C2s were kind of like Cobalt Strike, where it's just like, hey, this is a package. We give you this package, and that's how you do things. With Mythic, it was just like, hey, look, we're going to give you this package, but it's very modular. So if you want to like take this out and put this one in and do all this, you can. And I thought that was really interesting. And one thing that's really awesome is just seeing how much the community has like done with this. And this is kind of why I was just like, you can basically pick any language, and when it comes to Mythic, there is a agent for it. So like what you put onto the target system, the victim system, right? It can be languages like C, C#, C++, Rust, Python, Zig, which is new, Nim, like all these different languages.
They got Nim one there?
Yeah, they have everything.
Cool.
They have everything, and it's super well documented. And you just look at what the community makes for Mythic, and it's always like man, these guys are going crazy.
Wow, yeah, it's so like the programming side is so interesting to me because like regardless of what part of the tech industry you're in, right? Someone programmed the tool you're even like using, right? So it's so interesting to see here like the history of it, especially the Cobalt Strike stuff, because the fact that it was written in C, which is like C is probably like what 50 or 60 years old right by now. Like C is old, right? But the fact like that's still at like the top of the mountain, shows that there's still like a lot of value there. Definitely. I have a ton more questions for you, and we have like 18 minutes left.
It's all good.
So definitely, I'm gonna ask you these questions and try to just breeze through it as quickly as you can, right? But first, BOF. Like, what's a BOF again?
So BOF is a beacon object file. So basically, right, we're going to compile a C executable, but we're going to remove the linkers, and we're going to have that basically be ran and transmitted over C2 traffic, right? And that's how we can have commands that aren't built into a Cobalt Strike implant be ran. So that's how we can extend the functionality of the C2, right? So like, for example, to kind of give you more background on this, so generally most implants, most beacons, they come with like commands like ls, change directory, upload, download, right? They're not going to come with things like, hey, Kerberos, right? It's not going to be like, hey, you're not going to be able to Kerberos, so you need a BOF that will Kerberos. You need a BOF to interact with, you can try to interact with some of this stuff with other ways, but it's more preferred to interact with, like, for example, MS SQL through the MS SQL BOFs that they have, right? And that's kind of what it is. So it's just a way to extend the C2's functionality.
Got it. So is this more similar to like an API, or is it more similar to using like inline? So in C, you can have inline assembly. So is it like using a language as inline, or is it more like using the API?
So it's more of inline. So the goal is to basically have the commands run in memory, right? Which is why it's used, because that way it's a lot more stealthy than like having like another executable. Yeah.
Got it.
So
Got
it's a stealth thing.
Got it.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. And so all right, before earlier you talking about one of these acronyms, Arctic,
yes.
RTOC, yeah. So what is that?
So RTOC is a red team certification by White Knight Labs. They are a smaller team, or smaller offensive security company. Not a lot of people know them, but I highly recommend them. When I was first trying to understand a bit more about Cobalt Strike and the profiles and how to bypass EDR, for example, I actually pulled up some of their articles, and it helped and it worked. And I was like, okay, well, if this is the case, I should, like, when I found out they were releasing courses, I bought them immediately. So I was one of the first people back when they, I believe they released them back in 2024. I bought their Red Team course. It's called RTOC Advanced Red Team Operator Course. I bought that one, and I also bought their development course for like malware development called, what's it, ODOC, Offensive Development Practitioner course. I think that's what it's called. So I bought those two because I was just like, I know these guys, like, if the article's good, their course should be even better. So I bought those two courses back when they were only like $250, and now they're like $800, and I feel like I struck gold, and I was just like, perfect, right? So, and then I basically went on like a whole, I know I said like 2024, I bought these courses and I'm doing them now. I went on like a whole little path where I went and got the OSCP, OSEP, and CRTO before I wanted to hop into the course. And even now I'm thinking about going and doing CRTO, which now I'm gonna need to explain the acronyms. So for people that don't know, OSCP is basically the golden standard cert. When people think of like hacking, a lot of times they think of OSCP, or at least pen testers think of OSCP. That is the gold standard, and it is from OffSec. I believe they just changed their name to OffSec. And then I went after that and took on their bigger brother called the OSEP, which is the OffSec Security Experienced Pen Tester. And now that I think about it, I don't think I said the acronym for OSCP, did I? OSCP is what's the Offensive Security Certified Professional. Yeah. Thank you. So that's OSCP. OSEP is experienced pen tester, and then I took on CRTO, stands for Certified Red Team Operator. Right. So I did all that, and I felt like, okay, I feel pretty comfortable. Let me go into RTOC, and while I do feel comfortable, I do notice there are a few things that I do want to improve in before, so I might go for CRTL, which is the bigger brother to CRTO, stands for Certified Red Team Lead. Yeah, there you go, four words. So a lot of acronyms just kind of went out at once.
Okay.
So now kind of going back to RTOC. So I've been playing around with that. I had a few days, I think a week or two ago, that I was just like playing around with it, and it's a really good course. It made me think past. It made me actually go and figure out ETW bypass myself. I went and I extended my loader, which is basically the way that the malware will be ran onto the on the system. I went and I added a ETW bypass myself, and when I got it to work, it's not getting called as AV, and I'm not getting a callback, and it's because I need to go and work on some stuff on the network side. So I've been working on that now, and now I got my callback. So now it's like when I have time, I'll go back and I'll be like, okay, now that I can actually get a callback and I see what's going on, what do I do? Right. So that's kind of where I am on that. And I think that's a really good course for anyone who has like all these other certifications that I said. If you're like, okay, well, what's next for red teaming? I highly recommend White Knight Labs.
Wow. And it reminds me of earlier you were speaking about like the video games, like you play, like I think you were saying like Apex or something like that. like it's like sometimes with tech, especially with these certifications, it feels like a video game, bro. Because he got like
Yeah.
it's like you got like stack all these different
Yes.
certifications. It's so funny.
Yeah.
So in the red teaming landscape, right? I know that there's OffSec, there's Sans, right? There's like CompTIA, right? But what like organizations or certs do you feel like is the most entry one? And what do you feel like is like the pinnacle, like the top of the mountain?
So right now, I'm thinking that at the very top is going to be the White Knight Labs courses. I think they are for what they are. I think they're really good. Even for like the price at $800. I think for someone who wants like a red team operator who wants to like get to that next step, I think it would be best if you do like a White Knight Lab course.
Wow.
Let me see. So at the very beginning, though, I highly recommend Hack the Box, and I say that because one, it's very affordable. It's $8 a month if you're a student. It might be $20 or something along those lines if you're not. But you know, the amount of knowledge that you get, I don't think you can get anywhere else, right?
Wow.
And this is for like web and like network-based penetration testing. It's just so much, right? I have a buddy of mine who is like really into cyber. He's also in a red team. He's a red team lead actually. And you know, when we were working together, he was just like, man, you know, it took me like a year to do the CPTS, which stands for. I actually, man, what does that stand for? Sort of. I'm not sure. Give me a second. Let me check.
Right? I know because that like came out recently, right, from Hack the Box, right? It came out like a year or two ago.
Yeah, certified penetration testing specialist from Hack the Box. Yeah. So he went through the path, and it took him a year. And I mean, I'm telling you, man, he loves hacking. So that's his fun. Like he's just like, man, I'm bored. What do? I go hack, right? So for him to take a year, it's a lot. So the thing is, when it comes to Hack the Box, it is while it's very easily I guess easily accessible, but I don't know about approachable because to take these certs, you have to complete the entire path. And like I just said, the path took someone who loves the stuff a year. So it's one of the best places if you want to learn. I highly recommend Hack the Box. I don't think there is a better like intro. They have a good one for if you're just being introduced to cybersecurity. I think they have a junior, maybe not junior pen testing, but I think they have a junior cyber cert. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, they have a junior cybersecurity associate cert. And then if you want to go down the path of like web pen testing, they have that. They have regular pen testing. They even have the defensive security analyst cert. So it's Hack the Box, very, in my opinion, again, very approachable or very accessible. Might not be so approachable because it's just so much, but I think that if you do it and when you're done, you are like one of the best because it's just it covers everything. Like anything you can think of is probably in that course. So yeah, highly recommend Hack the Box to begin. And then when you are, you're done and you're over the mountain and you're like, what's next? Then you go for like White Knight Labs, Art Talk.
Yeah. One thing I love about tech and like the thing that is like fascinates me about this industry to this day, it never ends. It's a constant, it's like you think, oh, you're at the top of the mountain, oh, there's another mountain. Oh, there's another mountain. Like it never stops, which is like, but it's beautiful though. Like, so for people who love like learning and just like love being active, this is like a beautiful industry to be in. And also, one thing I wanted to ask you about, physical red teaming, like on-site physical red teaming, right? Have you dived in like into that space? Like, what do you think about that space, or what would you recommend for people going down that path?
So I personally haven't, but I do know people who have, and I have seen some of that. I recommend Covert Access training is something like that. I recommend them. I've had a buddy of mine take that training, and he highly recommended it. He said it was really good. So I recommend that. I'm trying to go find it now.
They're good.
Yep. Okay, so covert access team, I think is what it's called. Yep, covert access team. Highly recommend that one. And then there's one that is in, I believe, Florida. Man, and I really wanted to do this course. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but I'm like it's really cool because it gives you all the tools that you would want. Right. So it's just like I think it comes with like a lock picking, comes with like an RFID cloner, it comes with all this other stuff, and then they help you, like they teach you how to break into stuff, which is really cool. I think they also had that for the covert access training, where like I'm pretty sure like they call it, like you call people and then they help you, like they're like it's one setup. Yeah. So I don't want to be like, oh, they helped you like break into this company that wasn't like allowed. Like it's it's planned. Yeah. Like it's understand, like they know it's going to happen. Right. And they kind of like let you go through the practice. I guess the motions and actually do it yourself, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Like because I love tech because there's so much different things that interesting, but that's the part of like red teaming that's super interesting, like Wi-Fi and physical. The Wi-Fi stuff is really, really interesting as well, because that goes like really deep as well. Yeah. But, I also wanted to ask you, so college and government clearances, right? So I know in cyber, like government clearances are really valuable, right? But I wanted to ask you, so in terms of your red teaming path, how valuable would you say is colleges are or government clearances are, and like what do you think about them?
I think for a lot of people, especially in cybersecurity, your degree does not matter as much as your experience and what you're able to say and talk to, and like the certifications you have, right? Because kind of like what you mentioned, something new is always coming up, right? There's a new exploit, there's a new, tool. AI has blown up in the last few years. So a lot of people that, went to school back in like 2010, they didn't, they didn't really talk about like AI, right? They didn't study AI. So while it is nice to have a degree, and I highly recommend anyone, who doesn't, to go ahead and get theirs, just because a lot of people are going to, there's some HRs that are going to be like, well, can't hire you because you don't have a degree. Kind of like once you get past that, your degree is really just like a HR checkbox, and what you know and like how you're able to, how you're able to work, what you know, and how you're able to like, work with, with the team and whatnot. I think that's more important than your degree. And when it comes to your clearance, I highly recommend clearances, mainly because it's just a great way of having jobs. Job stability, right? So, because not everyone can get a clearance, and then there's also the fact that not everyone who's that good wants to get clearance, because especially working like red teaming, who wants to? I'll be honest, who wants to be in office all the time, right? When you don't have to be, especially because like this I guess part of the industry, right, can be more or less done wherever. It helps to have a clearance because you're able to be like, well, hey, look, I know not many people have this stuff. Not everyone has the skill set that I have plus clearance, so you can easily command more, more benefits, more salary, more yada yada yada, just because of the fact that you have a clearance.
Wow, I definitely agree with everything you said. So to close out, one last thing. So what would you say in the red teaming, in your experience, what is like the most fun part of it, and what is a part that you feel like people should be aware of that's not as fun?
Hacking is not as fun as a lot of people think it is if you don't know what you're doing. And I say that because I've had like interns come and work with me, and they're just like, yo, man, I know you're doing something, I just don't know what, right? So it's just like they're just like, I know, like I see the screen, it's moving, I see you're doing these things, but I don't know what that means. And they're like super bored because it's just like they see something's happening, but they don't know what. And then so you have that. You have the fact that a lot of people think hacking is it's like only hacking, or maybe hacking and building your own tools, but it's really like, hey, you're helping secure organization, client, yada, so on and so forth. So it's also a bit of people skills, right? It's going in and presenting and talking and explaining to stakeholders, to clients that, hey, this is what I'm doing. and trying to like, how can I word it? Like, for example, like there's times when like a client might go, hey man, I don't see why this is a critical. This should just be a high, and then you have to like explain why, it is the way it is. Maybe someone looks at your report and it's just like, why do we even have this here? And then you have to explain why, this is important. So you also have to, you have to understand this is also a client-facing position, which, some people might not like. Then you have the fact that, a lot of people don't like writing reports. So it's just like, you're paid for the report. Like, yeah, you can do all these cool things, but like if you can't write to it and explain why this is bad, I mean, you're not really helping. And your goal is to help, right? That's why we do all this, is in the end of the day, is to help the organization become more secure. So, being able to write the report is like a huge thing, and write it well. So,
yeah, no, I'm definitely glad that you came on, because especially I feel like when people first enter cyber, this is what they want to do. They're like, oh, I want to be a hacker. Like, and like red teaming is like the peak of that, right? So I'm glad you came on to like share that, because I feel like a lot of new people entering cyber, you're where they want to be at, So you like sharing your advice is like definitely very much appreciated. But yeah, also share your social medias, any events you're going to, any products you're building. Just like share everything so people could like keep up with you.
I basically just have LinkedIn right now. I was thinking about starting up a YouTube channel, just kind of like doing, talking about like, I guess life, less like hacking, more life, just like going out and just enjoying life. Yeah. I don't know if that's I don't know. Add me on LinkedIn. It's just my name, Tyrrell Brewster, so you can search me up, especially if you have 2 R's. I have 2 R's in my name. So, Tyrrell Brewster, I should be the only person that pops up. My name's not that common. Yeah. I mostly just post a little bit about what I'm doing, if I'm building something, or if I am, seeing something that's interesting that people might be interested in. I repost it. I like it. I hope that I can share it to the broader community, that they can find. When it comes to like the tools that I'm working on, I actually have 2. I have one that we talked about, Chronix, where it's going to be rebranded basically and built out, fleshed out a little bit more. So if you guys have my GitHub, if you guys don't, it's GitHub, and then type in Ice Cube Sandwich. That's my old gamer tag from when I was like 12. So I tried to get all these other ones. None of them were available, but Ice Cube Sandwich was. So boom, Ice Cube Sandwich I am. Yeah. And I'll be posting all my like code snippets and whatnot there. My other product that I'm working on is going to be a RAG system for AI. Basically, the goal is to also implement that into the next level or the next stage of Chronix, where basically you can. So there's 2 ideas, right? So when it comes to Chronix, or not Chronix, when it comes to the RAG system, I still need to get a good name for it. I think I have one, but I gotta keep that hush hush, right? But basically, what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to load any type of red teaming, or at least my goal in this case is red teaming. Hopefully we can change it so it's like also for blue teaming, whoever and whatever wants it, where you're able to basically upload all your files. In my case, red teaming, so all my notes that I have that I forget, because I forget syntax, right? There's so many different things. You have like cloud pen testing, web app pen testing, network pen testing, Windows, Linux, so on and so forth. Yeah. You're gonna forget the syntax at one point, and the goal is to have basically all my notes loaded into this RAG system, so I can easily just be like, hey, Chronix, or hey, whatever. What command, or what's the command for XYZ, and it should be able to retrieve that for me, pull it up, and let me use it. So that is the goal. I was actually going to have that. I was hoping to have that be a project of mine for next year. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, so I guess github.com/IceCubeSandwich, LinkedIn / linked or whatever, Tyrrell Brewster. If you guys want to add me, go ahead and add me. I add everybody. And that's it.
Sweet. No, I appreciate this so much because I know like this is the hacking, this is like the hacking that everyone talks about. So I definitely appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Of course. Have a good one, Bit. Bye now.
Bye.